Imagine you're driving on a highway and you suddenly notice the car in front of you is going slower than you'd like. You'd want to overtake, but you're stuck behind it, unable to pass. Frustrating, right? Well, in Formula 1, drivers face this challenge on a whole new level, with the added pressure of speed, competition, and millions of fans watching their every move. That's where DRS comes into play. So what exactly is DRS and how does it work? Let's find out. What is DRS in Formula 1? DRS, which stands for Drag Reduction System, was introduced in 2011 as an overtaking aid in Formula 1. The drag reduction system is a special feature in F1 cars that helps them go faster. It's designed to assist drivers in overtaking when they would otherwise be stuck in turbulent air behind the car in front. However, critics argue that this takes away from the skill of executing a difficult overtaking maneuver, with former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya famously comparing DRS to giving Picasso Photoshop. Despite its controversial nature, DRS remains a fixture of Formula 1, and the new rules introduced at the start of the 2022 season have reinforced its importance. The tool is not a simple overtake button that automatically guarantees a pass. Instead, it's intended to aid drivers in challenging situations. Since the late 1960s, wing-produced aerodynamics has been a crucial aspect of Formula 1 car performance. However, this has created a dirty air effect, making it difficult for trailing cars to follow closely. In the early 2000s, this problem was so significant that teams would often pit a chasing car to try and jump ahead when their leading rivals stopped, reducing on-track passing and drawing criticism from fans and observers as an inferior racing product. Prior to 2014, engine parity meant teams could rarely rely on a significant power advantage to overcome a rival car, placing a greater emphasis on the dirty air effect in racing. However, with the introduction of new rules and regulations, F1 cars have become more closely matched in terms of engine performance, making the dirty air effect less of a concern. As the latest generation of F1 cars have been designed to reduce the dirty air effect and allow drivers to follow more closely, many people had hoped that DRS would be dropped. While this is an aim of F1 sporting bosses in the coming years, the device's continuing usage remains disputed. How does DRS work? The drag reduction system works by using a flap on the back of the car that can be controlled by the driver. When drivers enter designated DRS activation zones on the track, they can push a button on the steering wheel to open the flap. This decreases the surface area of the wing, reducing aerodynamic drag and giving the car a significant boost in straight line speed. You may be wondering what a DRS activation zone is. We'll discuss that later in this video. During races, this feature is permitted only when the driver is within 1 second of the car ahead, even if the car ahead is being lapped. In contrast, during practice and qualifying sessions, the DRS can be used at the driver's discretion, but only within the designated activation zones. Before 2013, drivers could use DRS at any point on the track to decrease drag on a qualifying run, but this strategy was detrimental when racing wheel to wheel. The critical 1 second gap between cars is meticulously measured at specific points before a DRS zone, also known as a detection point. The track surface is fitted with electronic timing loops that precisely calculate the distance between two cars. If the following car is determined to be less than 1 second behind, a signal is sent to the driver, allowing them to activate their DRS in the upcoming zone. To inform drivers when they can use their DRS, dash lights on their steering wheels are activated. Teams will typically radio their drivers to alert them if a rival is approaching within the crucial gap. Once the attacking driver receives the signal, they manually activate DRS by pressing a steering wheel button. Depending on driver preference, this button can be located on either the front or back of the steering wheel. When running with DRS active and the rear wing open, drivers must turn off DRS and close the flap the next time they lift off the accelerator or press the brake pedal. Pressing the steering wheel button a second time will also close the rear wing flap. With so many intricacies involved, every driver must be fully aware of how to use DRS to gain a competitive edge on the track. In the high-octane world of Formula 1 racing, even the slightest miscalculation can lead to disaster. Therefore, drivers must carefully consider the use of their DRS system, weighing the benefits against the potential risks. If they're concerned about the aerodynamic load reattaching to the full rear wing and causing corner entry instability, they can choose to close the wing before braking into a corner. Plus, pressing the button too early means it will not open at the desired point, leading to a delay before the wing can then be opened. DRS cannot be activated during the first 2 laps of a race or after safety car or red flag periods. Additionally, the FIA race director can disable DRS if conditions are deemed unsafe, such as in the case of heavy rain or if debris is present on the track. If a defending driver is within 1 second of the car in front, they can also use DRS to maintain their position. However, if multiple cars are in close proximity to each other, this creates what is known as a DRS train, which essentially negates the speed boost provided by DRS. Defending drivers can also deploy their hybrid powertrain's electrical energy, commonly referred to as an overtake button or state of charge button, to accelerate faster onto a straight. This is a strategic move aimed at reducing the likelihood of being overtaken by a car behind with DRS active at the end of an activation zone. How many DRS zones are there on a track? In most cases, a DRS zone can be found at the end of each main straight on every track. Nonetheless, if a circuit has a particularly terrible reputation for passing, extra zones may be added. This may include stretches of the track that feature turns with a shallow corner. The lengthy and winding zones through the final turns and into the pit straight in Baku, as well as the areas between turns 9 and 11 in Miami, are both examples of runs that fit this description. The re-profiled track used for the 2022 Australian Grand Prix was initially scheduled to have 4 DRS zones. The idea was to create 2 zones where drivers could use DRS to get closer to other drivers and then try to overtake them in the other 2 zones where the track had big corners that made overtaking easier. Eventually, the DRS zone between turns 8 and 9 at the 2022 Albert Park layout was removed on safety grounds ahead of final practice following lobbying from certain teams. This is because using DRS into bends with shallow angles is often frowned upon as risky because it results in a reduction in the driver's ability to control the vehicle due to a lack of downforce. Accidents are possible as a result of this, particularly considering that DRS zones generally stop at the conclusion of lengthy straights or acceleration zones. Despite the risks, the FIA still allowed drivers to attempt certain corners with DRS active. For example, at the 2018 British GP, a third DRS zone was created, running down the Silverstone pit straight and through the fast opening 2 corners. However, 2 accidents followed in practice and the race, leading to the removal of the zone for the following season. Now, what happens if a driver's DRS fails to work correctly? If a driver's rear wing fails to close properly, there is a chance that DRS may fail, which will result in the driver being given a black flag with an orange disc. If something like this were to occur, the driver would be told to return to the pits so that mechanics could manually close the flap. If the flap could not be fixed, the driver will not be allowed to use it again. Ericsson's collision during the 2018 Italian Grand Prix is a well-known example of a DRS malfunction leading to a crash. Ericsson's Sauber car's DRS failed not to close as planned when he applied high-speed braking, which caused him to lose control of his vehicle and fall violently at Monza's first chicane. What other series uses DRS? DRS is also utilized in Formula 2 and Formula 3 respectively. When it was first introduced to FIA F3 in 2017, back when the series was still known as GP3, drivers were only allowed to activate and use the system for a maximum of 6 laps per feature race and 4 laps for sprint events. This changed in 2018 when the series became known as FIA F3. Starting in 2019, the utilization of DRS in F3 has been run in accordance with the rules of F1. DRS has been utilized in Formula 2 races ever since the 2015 series, when the series was still known as GP2. Other racing championships, such as the DTM, utilized DRS in a manner similar to that of Formula 1 Championship in the years leading up to its switch to GT3 regulations in 2021. Other motorsport series have their own methods of helping drivers overtake, such as IndyCar's Push to Pass and Super Formula's Overtake system, which both temporarily boost engine performance during races. Formula E's Attack mode allowed drivers to use a more powerful energy deployment setting for a limited amount of time during each race, although the length of time varies at each event. These systems are different from DRS in that they involve performance boost rather than reducing aerodynamic drag. And there you have it, all you need to know about F1 DRS. Now that you have an understanding of what DRS is and how it works, so what's your thoughts about this technology used in F1? Let us know in the comment section down below.